an option for people to watch later on. Awesome. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to our spring empowerment event, and I'm so excited to be able to introduce Mia. Tuesday today is going to be a great way to connect with her story, and I know she's going to be touching on just how she can wear so many hats as a disabled person, go into each of those hats with entrepreneurship, nonprofit work, and then being a student. And then just to keep this on the rest of your guys' radar, Wednesday, Chris will be doing some seated aerobics. And then Thursday, Megan will be touching on her journey as a small business owner who does an incredible interior design work. And then Friday will be a DJ session with Tony. So awesome. I will pass the mic to Mia.
Well, I'm not gonna be busting out a mixer and DJ session, but that sounds tight. So make sure you guys hop on that one. But I hope everyone's having a lovely evening so far. And I do want to share my story because it's been a crazy journey, and there's a lot of hats like she had mentioned that I am wearing, but there's a reason for it, and they're all in alignment. So that's the crazy thing is I didn't think that I would ever get into entrepreneurship, but the way that everything happened, you are always exactly where you need to be at the time that you need to be there. So I started off in the fire service. Straight out of high school, I had this crazy idea, this dream. I wanted to become a firefighter EMT, and that's exactly what I did. So I got on a CAL FIRE firefighter one hand crew here in California. I'm based out of Fresno, California. And so I got to travel up and down California for a little bit. And I did that for 2 years, and I loved every second of it. But I started to miss my family, and I had a little brother who at the time was 5. So I decided to transfer departments, stations, and go through another fire academy. And while I was in that academy, I was hiking off duty on the weekend and ended up tumbling 50 feet, missed my footing, and was watching pretty much where I was falling off of. And I know a lot of us have some crazy stories, but this one was very personal. Not only because obviously it completely I had to shift identities, but I was a firefighter, I was a first responder, and now I was on the other side of the table. So that was a big adjustment, not realizing what had just happened to me, but that was a kickstart of a whole different path that I'm not sure I would have ever been ready for. I don't think we're ever ready to go down a different path or to make a certain decision. And life just happened in the way that it did, and everything just started unfolding. So I was in the hospital for about 28 days before insurance kicked in and was like, all right, time for you to go home, even if I wasn't ready. And once I got released, it was about 6 to 7 months from the time I was released, where I got picked up by Fresno Fire Department working with investigations, which I did for a little bit. But I was getting asked to speak at all of these different places, sharing my life story. And it started to be a little overwhelming because I was getting asked to speak at so many places that I had a day job, so I had to be discerning as to what gigs I would take. And eventually, I had a friend that was a burn nurse, and she was like, "Hey, you can get paid to do these speeches." And I was like, "What, to talk? Like you're crazy. Why am I going to charge somebody to talk?" And she was like, "No, motivational speakers make really good money." And so, needless to say, I looked into it, ended up leaving the fire department, started a whole business, and then the pandemic hit. The pandemic hit a month after I had resigned. And so I had to learn how to go online, do a lot of virtual webinars, podcasts, interviews, and refund all of the in-person events that I already had scheduled. So I had to adapt very quickly. And I've been in business for close to 8 years now with my LLC. And 2 years ago, I decided to start a nonprofit, Philomath Center. That is to serve individuals with spinal cord injuries, helping them get back to life, get back into the workplace. So we provide grants to these individuals to start a business, go back to school, or advance in their career. And the reason for starting the nonprofit was I wanted to get people where I'm at and all the knowledge that I've been able to figure out on my own and with my mentors. I wanted to pass that on and kind of help people get back to life. So I have a whole board of individuals that share the same mission. So I went from an LLC, not really knowing how to navigate business, found mentors along the way. One thing that kind of stuck out to me is even when I didn't have the answer, I didn't have a business degree. In fact, I didn't have any degree other than first responder certificates and fire experience. So when I got into business, I didn't know what I was doing and pretty much started from scratch. I, would buy online courses. I would any ad that would pop up on Facebook or Instagram, I was clicking on of like, hey, this resonates. Let me see if I can get this mentorship and this coaching. I was purchasing all these different courses and none of it was really making sense. I would take bits and parts from all these different courses, putting them all together, and all I knew was my why, my purpose. I didn't have any other answer. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't even know what to do. As long as I knew my why, that was enough to keep me going, to keep me pushing. And the more that I kept working on it, kept trying to find answers, the more that it all started to show up in a very weird sense. But I'm very grateful because every time I had a question or I didn't know what I needed to learn, there was always somebody that was showing up in my life that provided that answer. So I started down this path, and next you know, I had a mentor pop up who is a founder of the Central California Adaptive Sports Center. And I had told him, hey, I'm going to be leaving the fire department, get into business. And he was like, do you have any business knowledge? And I said, no. And I was already a participant with him, and he was a good friend of mine. And he was like, okay, well, come work for me. And so I got some experience, but he was a nonprofit and I was starting an LLC. And so I was like, well, there's only so much I can take from this. Little did I know I would eventually be starting a nonprofit as well. So that actually worked out in my favor. But I continued down the path. Next, you know, there's another mentor popping up. Got mentorship with Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, a lot of big names. That everything started to unfold in the way that it needed to. But the one thing that I stuck with was my why. Even when things got hard, I always just stuck back to, hey, why'd you start in the first place? Why are you pushing so hard to go down this path when you don't even know what you're doing? And all I knew was my why. And for me, it came down to a really core wound, which kind of goes back to my accident where I didn't have the money. And in the first year of having a spinal cord injury, on average, between all the medical expenses, all the hospital visits, the PT, catheters, everything, all of the expenses is about a quarter million on average within the first year of living with a spinal cord injury. So I had to figure out a lot on my own, and I had, friends and family that were supporting as well, but I didn't want to struggle anymore. So I decided, I gotta figure out how I'm gonna make this happen because if I can get myself to the point in my life where I'm comfortable, then I can help others get there as well. So that was the whole goal of this is bigger than me. If it was, just about me, then I wouldn't have gone as far as I feel like I have. So that's where I kept that at the forefront of my mind. And I think any entrepreneur, any business, any person that's a creative, it's not even about business. It's about being a creative, what you can create, bringing your ideas, your vision to life, to reality. No matter what service or product that you're selling, it's your creativity that is being projected out into the world. So for me, I had a mentor who had told me, and it was when he had told me this, I was on a one-on-one call with him, super direct with me when he said this, but I told him I was struggling because I didn't know how I was going to do any of this. Like I was freaking out, I was nervous, I was anxious. And he said this one line that stuck with me. He said, if you don't have the resources, you need to be resourceful. Look at everything that you have around you right now. You have a car, you have a nice blazer. Go knock on office doors. Pick up that phone. You have a cell phone, you have social media. Look at what you do have and use that. You don't have to have no, grand network of people having to get out all the time and, do things that make you feel uncomfortable. But look at what you do have. Look what is, right in front of you. If not, you'll miss everything that's passing. So that was very impactful for me because I knew that one, I didn't come from, a family or these family dynamics of money or, you know, having the help that I wish I would have had. So it was up to me to go and get it. And so I continued down this path of starting the LLC, which is even now is my primary source of income. It's my day job, and as well as working on the nonprofit and stuff. So that was the beginning of it all. And that opened my eyes to a lot because I didn't know what life was going to hold after my injury. And I'm sure some of you guys can relate when you have something traumatic happen, no matter how that plays out, but then you have a lot of questions because you're completely stripped of your identity. Who am I? What am I supposed to do now? Everything I know myself to be was completely just stripped of me. And so we start from that point. But aside from our identity can always change. You're not limited to just one identity. Identity is just this jacket that we throw on of like, this is who I am now. But at any time, you can take off this jacket, throw on this new identity, like that old identity no longer resonates. So let me throw on this new jacket of like, this is who I am now. And then you just keep doing that throughout life. It's this constant death and rebirth process that is non-physical that we go through. We go through these cycles, we go through these transitions. And that was what was happening when I had, not only had my accident, but then went from the fire service to entrepreneurship. It was one of those identity changes. So although we're going to be talking about, entrepreneurship a little bit more here, it's not necessarily just this idea or concept of business. It's becoming the person that can fully express itself, the freedom that comes with that, of unleashing that flow state, that creativity, bringing that vision, that reality to life and making something of it, no matter to what extent you choose to do that. You're not limited to just one path. You can go and do multiple things. And that's kind of how I ended up here. And we're going to go a little bit more into all the things that I'm involved in. But that's that was something that I felt my creativity is my businesses. My businesses aren't just, to make money. It's not just an exchange. I get paid in exchange for my energy and the value that I bring, even when I get on stages. So that was something that I know I'm not doing this for me at all. When I get on stage, I'm not sharing my story for me. I lived it. I already know this stuff. I don't need to tell myself this. So I look into an audience and I'll see all the hundreds of people and think, all right, these are all different versions of me. If I were in that seat wanting guidance, then what would I want to hear? And so I go with that mindset. And no matter what aspect of business it is, I always come down to that. If somebody's asking me a question, okay, where are they at in their journey? And then you also have to be good at pattern recognition to figure out, hey, this is something they might need to hear, even if they're not ready, but you don't want to overwhelm people as well. So I started the business, my LLC, I got it going, survived the pandemic, started the nonprofit, which is, well, I consider it my baby, in our way to give back. And then I got to the point where it was like, I never finished school. I never, I never, pursued anything other than fire. So it was like I'm doing everything that I want to do with my speaking business, but I knew that I don't know everything. I'm a student to life. And although I don't need a degree, I'm already doing it. I thought, why not feed my mind more? There's a lot that I don't know, and I'm completely open to that. So I was like, I'm gonna go back and major in psychology because this is all stuff I'm already teaching with my speaking business. I'm getting paid thousands of dollars to talk for 1 hour teaching the very stuff I'm in school for. But it's all connecting now. And now I've already done enough work within my own identity and the shadow work that was involved to now be open to hearing all the things I'm learning in school. Now it actually makes sense. I'm not just reading a book or, hearing this lecture. It's actually resonating. And I'm able to connect that to my personal life. And so I decided to go back to school, which I'm still in school right now. I am in school full time and I work full time, running both of my businesses, as well as involved in some other side things. And so that was the journey leading up to now. And that I wouldn't say it was an easy journey, but looking back, there was always a moment in time where I had to look at myself. That's just like an ongoing process that a lot of people don't realize that the life that they want to live is on the other side of an identity shift. And I even feel like I'm going through one right now. I feel like I'm mid transition right now, going through another shift in business and life and relationships and everything. I'm mid transition right now, but I'm accepting of where I'm going. And I never lost sight of that because I knew that I was following the calling. So no matter how hard something got, journey life is not easy, but it comes down to perspective. And that ties into not only school, work, but also business. It applies to every aspect of life. And I do teach on identity with my speaking business. I teach on identity in almost all of my businesses. I hop on my board meeting calls with my nonprofit, and next you know, we're throwing business tips out just that don't even have to do with, an event or our grants. It's just there's a ongoing process of individual growth that comes with business that a lot of people do not see. So if you're looking to start a side hustle or if you're looking to get into business, then there's going to be work that's going to be required. And that you're going to be faced with. You're going to be forced to do the work. If not, you'll find in business that you are stopping yourself from the very things that you're trying to do. So you can look at any successful business that has survived more than 3 years, and I can guarantee you they had to do the work to get there because it is not easy. You get scared, you get nervous, you get anxiety, you get that fear of like, what if I fail? One thing with me is I have no trouble failing. I have no trouble making myself look stupid. I will be the first in the room to embarrass myself. And the reason is I don't care what people think anymore. And that came with my identity of having to look at myself of like, why am I people pleasing? Why am I living my life for others? And this relates to entrepreneurship very heavily because a lot of people that, oh, I want to start a business. Oh, I had this side hustle. I want to start this business, but I don't know how. Again, we always get stuck with the questions, how? How are we going to do something? What are we going to do? And that you will figure out the moment you start making those baby steps. So to kind of sum that all up, yeah, we're talking about entrepreneurship today, but we're more so talking about identity and everything that you know yourself to be, because that is going to play a major aspect in anything that you're involved in, even if it's not business. But the way that I am in business is the way that I have to be in every aspect of my life. And that's how I show up every single day of like, hey, I'm going to take this risk and I'm not afraid to. Or I'm going to take this risk and if I fail, hey, at least I failed forward and know what I shouldn't do next time. So entrepreneurship is an identity game in short, in essence, because identity is this concept of this is who I am, right? But you can attach any word that you want after that. I am a mom. I am a nurse. I am an entrepreneur. I am a realtor. It's this I am. But you're not limited to just that. And I learned that in business is you're not limited to who you say you are because you are much more than that. See, I can go and be stripped of everything that I have right now, and I'm gonna go and get it again. You can take my business, I can sell a business. It doesn't matter what happens, what the outcome is. The outcome can change, and I will still do it again because at my core, I'm creative. So I can go and create another 2 businesses, another 5 businesses if I wanted to, because it's me. It's what was in my mind that was projected into my reality. So with entrepreneurship, if you have a creative outlet, if you have this side hustle, you can turn that into business. You can operate as a business. You can operate as a sole proprietor if you wanted to, unless you wanted to go that like a different business structure, which would be LLC, nonprofit, corporation. There's multiple different business structures that you can go with. It depends on liability. So even if you have a side hustle that you're wanting to do more freelance work, you would go for sole proprietor. But that doesn't protect you. Sole proprietorship is it's your money. It's still you. However, if you um, hadn't ran into an obstacle or issue, they can come for your assets, your house, your car, anything that you owned or anything that you own. And so that's where you have to learn the different business structures. But regardless, you can take any idea, any creative outlet, and turn it into a business. Sole proprietor is still a business. LLC is still a business. You have nonprofit, all those different business structures. But a lot of people don't realize that there's more that comes to business. So once you do start it, there's a lot of taxes. I just paid $800 and just for my LLC taxes to the state. And on top of that, I paid my CPA another, I think it was like 250. So all these little business things, expenses do add up. The cool thing is I profit way more than that. So I took a chance on my idea, my vision, my voice. What my LLC, my speaking business, that's all I sell my mind. I sell my knowledge and I use my voice. There's nothing else that I sell with that. So I get paid for my voice. So you can turn anything, absolutely anything, into a business. So as long as you're confident in that, and that comes down to your purpose, like how I had mentioned in the beginning, always stick to your purpose. If if you are an artist and you want to turn that into a business, there is nothing stopping you. You can have everyone tell you, "Oh, that's crazy. Oh, you're not gonna make money. Oh, you're not gonna succeed." Don't listen to anyone ever. Even if it's a parent, even if it's your wife or your husband, anything can happen. Anything is possible. And I will be the first to tell you guys that because I don't know how many times, even when I was living in the fire department, it was like, why are you going to leave a job with good benefits? And I knew deep down. I questioned myself too. I had all these people questioning me that made me question myself. But I knew that feeling inside, I had to follow that intuition. And because of that, that's how I ended up here. If not, none of this would have happened. I wouldn't have opened a lot of opportunities for people. I wouldn't have opened opportunities for myself and my family. I wouldn't have done a lot of things. So you can take any idea, any creative idea or vision and turn it into something. So don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. Now, when it comes to having the confidence to do something, to follow through, that again is going to, this is why I keep coming back to identity and how it relates to business, because you're not always going to feel motivated. When I first started my business, I mean, even now, there's times where I don't feel that motivation. I don't want to work, but I know I have to. There's things that you need to do in order to get to where you want to be. And that's not always comfortable. Looking at yourself, being like, why am I so blocked? Or why am I getting so nervous to just make that phone call or to send that email? And it's like, that's reflecting a wound of yours that you might not even realize is there. I've had to look at my childhood and figure out how it relates to my business. And it's finally started to make sense. But a lot of people don't see that. A lot of people don't get to know themselves enough to realize, hey, this is why I'm going for the career I am. Hey, I'm getting into the medical field because I like feeling like I get to help people because that's help I wish I had. So you can look at any career that you feel called to, and somehow, some way, it'll relate to a part of you that you may not even be aware of. So when it comes to the confidence and motivation, that's not always going to be there. Your identity is going to be shifting. You have to be okay with change. But at the end of the day, you have to know your core, who you are beneath all of it, which is that calling and also the purpose, your why. Doesn't matter what you do in life. You always have to find your why, what makes you feel good, what feels fulfilling. It's not, I have to, achieve this grand thing and that's my purpose. And if I don't do that, I don't have purpose. It's not that. Your purpose is to simply just be, but find who you are in that little moment, in that space is like knowing yourself. That is be. That's what identity means, is the I am, is to simply just be. I am. There's nothing else I can attach after that. I just am. But in that space, I found that I am creative. I am driven. I am ambitious. I am a lot of things that aren't always positive either. I am angry. I am happy. There's a lot of I am. We're always fluctuating. But having that knowledge as to why you are the way that you are helps you in business, because when it comes down to it, people will get that invoice for $800 that they owe, you know, FTB, which is the state, the franchise tax board. They will see that invoice of $800 and start to freak out. Why? Because you don't think you can go make a gig that pays you $2,000 within the next day. You can make that in a day easily, as long as you can put your feelings into motion rather than allow them to paralyze you. That's a pretty big business aspect that a lot of people don't realize. So we can talk about business all day, but aside from what you can create, I want to know you. I want to know how you see yourself, because that will tell me exactly everything I need to know about your business or why you're trying to get into business. So for any of you guys that are on here that is looking to start a business, one, ask yourself why. Find out what it is that makes you feel called to that. There's no right or wrong answer, but make sure that your why is strong enough, because if you don't have all the answers, if you don't know how, if you don't know what, if you don't have the degree, if you don't have the support, if you feel alone, you always have to come back to your why you started in the first place. And you should always come back to that in any aspect of life, but especially business. So starting an LLC, starting the nonprofit, and going back to school, I can tell you it requires a lot out of my schedule. I think last night I was working until like maybe 11 o'clock at night. I had classes in the morning. When I'm not in class, I'm working. When I'm not working, I'm studying. And next, I'm working on nonprofit stuff. We have our second annual fundraiser coming up on Saturday, on the 18th. And so I have a lot going on. And I was working pretty late, but I have the discipline to keep a pretty good schedule, good time management. I'm able to balance very well. There's times I do get overwhelmed, but I have to take time for me and know myself. Okay, why am I reacting this way? Why am I responding this way? What triggers me? How can I rest? How can I take a break? How can I clear my mind? Because if my mind is not clear, I'm not creative. Unless it's a heightened emotion. If I'm stressed out, I tend to be the most creative. It's a little bit weird. But if I go through some crazy emotion, my body needs to express it. Sometimes I don't want to listen to a podcast or an interview. My body needs to release. So you have to know yourself well enough. When you do get in business, that will be reflected. So if you're looking to start a business, I say go for it. Be prepared that there's going to be expenses. But as long as you're doing the work, don't think about tomorrow. Don't think about the future. Think about now. And I do that in every aspect of life, even not when it doesn't even come to business. I always go with what can I do right now? Because tomorrow doesn't even exist. And this ties into my identity and what keeps me stuck, because 95% of your day-to-day habits is subconscious programming. So for the most part right now, you're operating from a memory. Anytime you go and experience something new, your mind, your brain takes a screenshot. Now your mind and brain are completely different things. But anytime you go and experience something new, your brain takes a screenshot and downloads this information like a hard drive. And with that experience is tied an emotion. So that is stored in your memory. And if it happens enough time, it creates this neural network, this pattern, this combination, this sequence in your mind that you tend to operate from moving forward. So because of that, you have your brain and you have your mind. Your mind is the projection of the brain. It's the action of the brain. You have a different level of mind to do different things. You have a specific level of mind to take a shower. You have a different level of mind, or AKA pattern sequence or combination neural network, right? To operate the car to drive. You have another level of mind to sing a song in the shower. You have all these pattern sequences, combinations in your brain to do things. So, with that, the mind is the projection, it's the action of the brain. So, you can control your mind. And that is something that when you do start your business, or even if you're already in business, you have to be aware of. You have to know how your mind works. Your mind is either going to make you or break you, but you have to be able to control it. And that's the biggest aspect of entrepreneurship is getting over the mind. A lot of people they want to start a business, but oh, I'm afraid. What if I build this and no one shows up? What if I start this business and I can't make enough money and now I'm in debt because I have to pay the state every year $800? Like people don't think of this. So it really comes down to you, who you are, who you know yourself to be, your identity. Because if you can't control your mind, you can't control any aspect of your life. You'll feel like life is out of whack, like life sucks. Well, why does life suck? Your internal state reflects this external environment. So if you're looking to get into business, the first thing you should ask yourself is one, why do I want to do this? What is the feeling that I'm going for? Or what do I feel when I create this thing? And also, when you are in motion, okay, how is my mind playing a factor? So, to go back to what I mean when I say there's no tomorrow or tomorrow doesn't exist, my mind is operating from all of my past experiences and trying to rewrite new experiences to reprogram my subconscious mind. So, business is not easy. However, as long as you use the now to your benefit and understand that you can't let life pass you by, you'll get exactly where you need to be. You have the past now, you have the present now, and then you have the future now. The future doesn't actually exist because when you get into the future, whether that's 5 years from now or even 5 minutes from now, let's say you get into the future 5 minutes from now, you're going to be experiencing the present moment. So does the future really exist? That's something you got to keep in mind when you are going through business, because there's going to be things that you're going to be faced with. There's things that you're going to be afraid to do. There's things that you're going to be afraid to take the risk, or you have all these emotions that kind of keep you stuck. And that's when you have to ask yourself is what am I really afraid of? Because all I have is the now. As long as I'm doing everything I need to in the now, I have my to-do list. I create my to-do list every night before the next day of everything I want to do tomorrow. I create it on my phone notes of like, okay, this is all the things I need to do tomorrow. Because come tomorrow when I wake up, I don't want to think about my to-do list because then I might get overwhelmed. So I'd rather do that the night before. I write down my to-do list. And so then the next day, tomorrow when I wake up, I go step by step down my to-do list. This is all I have to do. I don't look at the 100 things on my to-do list. I take it one step at a time. And next you know, I have 5 things done that day, or 10 things done, or maybe I completed the whole list. And that's all I'm focused on is what can I do right now with the time that I have? Because tomorrow does not exist. Everything that I do right now, my patterns, habits, and beliefs is going to reflect what we consider our future. So whether you're looking to start any business, no matter if it's a product or service, that's something you got to keep in mind. A lot of people don't realize how crucial that is to business. Do everything that you can in this moment with what you already have. You can think about all the million things of what you want, of things you have to get to start that business. None of that really matters. Use what you can right now, and then the rest will follow. How are we doing on time? If I ever start to ramble out, just feel free to hop in here. So yeah, I have the LLC, I have the nonprofit, and then going back to school. I'm in school full time. I'm taking I think 17 units right now just to get school get through school. But another reason for me wanting to get back into school is because of my nonprofit. With Philomath Center, like I had mentioned, we help people get back into the workplace, whether that's starting a business or if they are in the early phases of business, they can use that grant as well, advancing in their career or even going back to school. And so, one of the things that kind of persuaded me to go back to school, aside from the fact that I knew I needed to learn more, was if I'm going to be helping people, if my nonprofit is going to be giving people grants, monetary grants to go back to school, what can I expect to better understand their journeys? Because when people fill out our grants, I want to know exactly where you're at. Because if I know where you're at, then I can help you get to where you want to be. And that's what we do with the nonprofit. So Philomath Center, that the whole reason for starting it was because I knew I wanted to give back. And all the friends that I have involved, all the board members had the same mission. And so we got that started really quick. I established the nonprofit October of 2024. Within 6 months, we had our very first annual fundraiser. It happened very quick. We got it going, we got it off the ground very quick. And all I knew was I'm not going to wait around. I'm not going to wait around to get this thing going. I have this nonprofit because I want to give back. So the sooner I can get it going, the sooner I can give back. So we set our annual fundraiser for March. I had just started in October, and we set our annual fundraiser for March, and we got it done pretty quick. Luckily, I had nonprofit knowledge for my very first business mentor, and so I already knew what to expect. But I didn't want to wait around getting, a $25 donation every here and there, and hoping that, one day I'll have enough to give money back to these grantees. So I knew, okay, we have to do something big. We have to do an annual fundraiser, and that needs to happen pretty soon. So within 3 months, I had got all the board members I needed. For a nonprofit, you have to have at least 3 board members to be considered a nonprofit. And then for us, we filed as a 501(c)(3), which makes us tax exempt. And I already had all the EIN. I had everything else that I needed for the nonprofit. I had established it correctly. I have a whole checklist of things that to do to start a business. So I went down my checklist of like, okay, I filed with IRS. I got the EIN. We're now tax exempt. I have my 3 board members minimum. I actually got more than that. And so then we got it started pretty quick. We set our annual fundraiser and raised $4,000 on our very first annual fundraiser. Only having, I think it was a 2 or 3 hour event. It was super short, and we raised a good amount of money in a very little time. So that was our first go around, and we were able to give 3 grants out later that summer. We gave 3 grants out to help individuals with their businesses. That grant that we had open was specifically for entrepreneurship, those that were either looking to start a business or were in the early phases. So we gave 3 grants out, and I got to test run and get some feedback from them to help build it a little bit better and provide the mentorship that they needed. So not only are we giving money out, I'm also giving them business mentorship. We have a lot of communication through the different board members that we have, but we all provide something different to the nonprofit. We all have different knowledge. We have people that, we have somebody that does our communications. We have our VP. We have somebody that handles money. We have different job titles with the nonprofit board. So we were able to hop on these calls with these grantees and kind of provide them with our knowledge. And so they would get business mentorship through me, and as well as get money from our nonprofit to help them get going. And we got a lot of good feedback. It was great, and we intend on doing that more. So this annual fundraiser that we have coming up on this Saturday is our second annual fundraiser, and that way we can do more fundraising, including with the auction and all the ticket sales and everything like that, to just keep it going and keep building it more and more. But we also want to make it sustainable so that the business itself can continue to grow. That way we can help more people in the long run. But I do want to open it up to questions to see where you guys are at, what interests, if that's okay with Anna. I know that I got to share my story, but if there's anything specifically related to entrepreneurship or business, then, or even my own personal story, you guys are more than welcome to ask.
I can start us off. I have a question. How do you adapt your workflow and the environment to make sure that entrepreneurship is sustainable for you?
Mm, I I kind of keep a consistent schedule to figure out what to do to keep things going. I don't like feeling stuck. I don't like feeling paralyzed. So when it comes to my environment, I have certain habits and things that I do throughout my day, time that I put aside for myself that allows me to feel clear, if that makes sense. With all the things that I do have going on, none of that tends to be that overwhelming just because I do feel I am very disciplined. Like I had mentioned the to-do list. Um, Aside from that, I'm always listening to podcasts, always listening to different interviews, always reading. I love reading. And if you would have asked me if I liked reading like 10 years ago, I would have said, heck no. Now I'm a reader. But there's certain things that in my everyday environment that contribute to my business, if that answers your question. Anyone else? Anyone else have any questions?
So I have a question. When you were first saying, um, you said that someone said something to you and you were like, look around and see what you do have. Can you repeat what you said? I'm sorry to ask so late into it, but
Yeah, of course. So one of my mentors said, if you don't have the resources, you have to be resourceful. And that's what really stuck with me because at the time, when you hear that, it's like you have a lot of questions. You're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to build a business. And when he told me that, he said that very direct. If you don't have the resources, you have to be resourceful.
uh,
That was kind of like a gut check.
that's it. That it's really good. I just wanted to write it down and I didn't have my pen ready and I was like, that's profound. But when you said I am and then fill it in, it's hilarious because somebody asked me how I was the other day and all I said was I am. And I left it at that because I like literally couldn't like fathom anything else at the moment because it was a really bad day and I didn't want to express that. So yeah, that I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that as well. Yeah, this I am, that statement itself is so powerful. I don't think people realize that. Like it just I am. You don't have to attach any word after that. It's just I am. Like that's major in itself because that describes the now. It's like I just am. I'm just here. I'm you know, that's your purpose. A lot of people they're always chasing some grand thing. Oh, I have to, you know, choose this career to have a purpose, or I have to be this type of person for my kids. That's my purpose. And it's like your purpose is to simply just be. It's just the I am. That's why we're called human beings, because we just are. And once you immerse yourself into that and understanding that itself, there's so much that you will find. All the answers that you can ever try to get or receive already exist within you. You just got to go in, you got to go inwards. Another thing I did mention too is how the external environment is a projection or a reflection of your internal self, your internal state. So that's why I keep coming back to the identity of like, you got to know yourself. We can talk about business all day, but if you don't know yourself, you don't know your business. If you don't know yourself, you don't know what you can do. All you might see is limitations. And that taps into what that statement that one of my mentors had said with the if you don't have the resources, you have to be resourceful. Because at the time, I was overwhelmed. I was like, how am I going to do this? I want to do all of this, all these different things, and I don't know how. And he was just like, hold up, stop right there. Like, don't say anything else. Look at what you have right now, because that itself, you have your creativity, you have, a nice outfit, go knock on doors, you got your cell phone. So it was like, he was pretty much just saying, hey, Mia, stop, be present, immerse yourself into the now, and figure out that I am who I know myself to be. And that's where I kind of just like stopped and was like, oh, he has a good point. There's actually a lot that I do have that I just wasn't paying attention to. It's like that stop to smell flowers. We always hear that all the time, but it's not just about stopping to smell the flowers. It's looking at every single detail of that flower, that little bug that's crawling on the flower. Maybe it's doing something weird as it's walking, or it's walking in, not a straight line. Like, it's paying attention to every detail of the now. Like, even right now, if you were to focus not only on my voice, but every detail of my voice, you'd be more present, focusing on the depth, how my voice sounds, the bass, of my voice, all the little details, you tend to be more present. Like, you can pretend like you're listening to me all day. You hear me, but are you really paying attention? Are you really diving into the details of the things that I'm saying? So that's something we should all be doing. We talk about the now all the time. We talk about being present, but what does that actually mean? It means paying attention to detail, knowing yourself. So the external environment is literally a projection of me. If I don't like my life, it's my responsibility. Like, I can go and be like, oh, life sucks. Oh, okay, that's a projection of me. What am I not looking at? Or if you're in a relationship, oh, this person's doing that, this person's doing this, I don't like that. Okay, look at yourself. They're mirroring you in some way, shape, or form, even if you're unconscious of it. Every person that you meet is a reflection of you in some way, shape, or form, even if you don't know that person. You can go meet a stranger at Target and they're yelling, they're cussing and whatnot, and you're like, oh, that person's filled with ego. They're reflecting you. Why'd you just say that? You know what I mean? Like, every person that you meet, whether it's a relative, a partner, um, anyone, they're a reflection of you. You just got to pay attention to what version of you they're reflecting. What traits, what characteristics are they reflecting to you? Like, whatever you think of me is a reflection of you. If you think, whatever, it doesn't matter what you think of me. I'm you. I'm showing you back to you right now in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's, oh, I want to get into business, or hey, I want to do this. Doesn't matter what that is. I'm reflecting you back to you. And hopefully that's showing you the possibilities and the opportunities that exist. Because we're limitless in nature. We're infinite beings in a finite body. We come into this life, we take form. We take on this avatar suit. We go through certain things in this life that is meant to shape and evolve us. Everything that we can ever go through was literally our story just playing out. We agreed to all of it. Where everything that you're choosing, you can be in a relationship and you're unhappy. Why are you going to go complain about something you're allowing? You know what I mean? So everything in your day to day, your reality is a reflection of you. Your personality is your personal reality. Everything that you know yourself to be. This is why I keep coming back to identity and how it ties into business, because everything you know yourself to be is everything you'll ever create, everything that you are in this moment. And there's so much there that we don't always recognize. So, in the now, when you guys leave this call, no matter where you're at in your journey, I want you to really reflect on that. Where am I at? What's holding me back? What is it that I want that I don't have yet? And what am I not doing that I can be doing to get there? That's going to play a major role. Anyone have any other questions, comments, feedback?
I have another lingering question. Um, I think people get caught up in success stories and all the wins of other people. We play this comparison game because that's us in a human being form. Um, I'm curious on what you have found to be like the scariest thing about betting on yourself because you took a lot of risks to put on this multi-passionate endeavor. And I know that there were scary moments, so I'm curious on what those were and how you were able to persist.
One of the scariest things that I found was that I wanted to do something and I didn't know how. So I kept trying to find myself in others. And that got me nowhere. Trying to do what others were doing. It didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel true to me. It didn't feel real. So I had to ask myself, yeah, I can follow their path, but it's still not going to be my path. And that I think that's probably the hardest things because we do tend to compare ourselves of like I can look at anyone in my industry. As a beginner speaker, you're making about, 5,000 or less. If you're doing the free gigs, that's a different story. But if you're doing more, being in business 8 years, on average, we can make up to this is kind of like a across the board industry norm, but about 10 to 15,000 to talk for 1 hour. So to get there, I can look at anyone in my industry and be like, wow, they're making a lot of money, but it's not about the money. And I think anyone that actually gets there realizes that. So the hardest thing for me was to stop comparing myself to others. Their journey is not mine. What they take to get there, there's a lot of work I didn't see. So I kept trying to, um, this is what I say, find myself in others because I was almost wanting to be them. And I found very, very early on that was not going to get me anywhere because I don't know their story. I don't know what drives them. I don't know their purpose. And all of that is not mine. It's not my story. So every person has obviously their own unique story, but there's so many gems in that. There's so many answers in who you are, what you went through, that it just takes you uncovering and getting to know yourself. I I struggled to take a bet on myself at first. I did question a lot. Like even when I was leaving the fire department, um, I had both my mom and dad separately kind of, was kind of looking at me like, are you sure you want to do that? Like I can just see it in their face. And then I would go and tell, my best friends, I had two best friends, and be like, hey, I want to do this. And they were like, I don't know if that's going to work. Like, are you sure? I got questioned a lot. And at some point, I had to be okay with not seeking external validation. And earlier, I had mentioned all the answers that you seek are already within you. And so I do want to reiterate that because you don't need to seek external validation for anything. All the answers you seek are within you. And that even ties into that statement that we just went over again, that if you don't have the resources, you have to be resourceful because all the answers you seek are already there. We're always chasing something. We're always chasing the next best thing. We're always chasing these answers. We're always chasing a dream that's not even ours that we saw on social media and now we're comparing ourselves to that person. We're always chasing something. And you go and chase and then you get it and then you're still unfulfilled. So there's always more that we tend to miss. So when it came to actually taking that risk, all I knew was that feeling, that intuitive feeling, that calling of like, nah, I know I have to go this route, even though I'm terrified. I cried when I left the fire department, like, like by myself. And at the time, I wasn't one that really showed expression, like expressing emotions, but I cried because I was like, am I taking, the right path? Is this something I should really be doing? Or should I be listening to people that are trying to keep me safe? The problem is you go and listen to people that never took a chance on their dreams, never chased after their path or their vision, or, don't even express their creativity. So why am I going to go listen to people that haven't even done it? I'm the first in my family. So I was over here like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I all I know is I can't listen to anyone. I can't listen to anyone to tell me how to live my life. So all I know is when this is something I felt called to, even when I didn't have the answers, when I was completely terrified. I can't even tell you how scared I was. But even all the times that I did fail, you go and fail, then again you come back to the why am I doing this? Maybe I should give up. Nah, you're right there. You're on the brink of something and you're about to give up when all you gotta do is turn that little corner. And next you know, all the abundance is gonna start flowing in. Every time we get stressed out and something bad happens, there's always something good to follow. Life is like a pendulum swing. We're constantly shifting back and forth. It's the law of polarity. There's a good, there's a bad. There's love, there's hate. There's hot, there's cold. You can look at hot and cold, for example. The reason why it's on one thermometer is because it's actually the same. And that might not make sense yet, but let me dive a little deeper into that. So hot and cold is actually one of the same. You can take any two opposites, and this I'm explaining the law of polarity. So any two opposites are actually one of the same. The only difference is the degree at which it's vibrating. So if it's vibrating higher, it's going to be perceived as hot. If it's vibrating lower, it's going to be cold. See, but it's on one thermometer. So how I perceive, I may think it's hot. You may think it's cold. Why? It's at 72 degrees. For me, it's hot. For you, it's cold. Why is that? It comes down to perspective. Anything in life, it just comes down to perspective. Every truth is only a half truth. It's just based off of how you see it. There's no line to determine where hot stops and cold begins. So why is it hot for me and it's cold for you? Why is it easy for me, but it's hard for somebody else? Or why is it easy for them and I'm over here struggling? It comes down to perspective. So it's how I perceive the experience. But I have to be able to control my mind to be like, hey, is this an illusion I'm projecting based off of an old wound? Or is this something that I'm actually feeling and how do I work through it? How do I process it? So I can look at all these different people that were doing everything that I wanted to do, but it comes down to perspective of what is it that I'm really looking at? I don't know their story. I don't know what they went through to get there. So why am I going to compare myself to anyone ever? I'm confident in what I do because I know no one will ever do it better than me because they're not meant to. They can go and do the same thing that I do, but they're going to do it in their own way. They're not doing it based off of my story. I'm not in competition with anyone but myself and who I used to be. So even when it does get hard, you're going to fail. And then that, again, you're going to be afraid to take a risk, but it's going to come down to who you know yourself to be. Hope that answers.
I love that. Well, unfortunately, our hour is coming to a close, but to wrap this all up, I know that they're going to be curious to know more about your story. So I'm wondering, where could we find you? How can we get involved?
So I am on Instagram. I'm on social media. My personal page is Mia Natalia G. I will put it in the chat right here, as well as our nonprofit. Let's see, let me type this real quick before I lose my train of thought. So even if you guys have more questions in regards to business, you can always reach out to our nonprofit uh, Instagram and you get free knowledge. We're here to mentor. And then when we do have our grants that open up, then you can always apply for our grants at that time. Let me make sure I'm typing this correctly. Okay, yeah. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see that. That's both my personal and our nonprofit Instagram, as well as if you want to reach out to our nonprofit and you don't have Instagram, you can always check out our website and send us an email there. We're here to help. So we're here to guide you. We're here to provide that mentorship. We provide free resources to individuals with spinal cord injuries, regardless of your disability or you being in a chair. We're here to help. Even if you don't fall under that, we'll find a way to help you or get you connected with somebody that can help you. So Don't think we're trying to sell you on anything. We're literally here to help people. So if you guys have any questions at all, there's no such thing as a dumb question. I'm sure you guys have heard that before, but any question at all, if you want a checklist, you can message us and be like, hey, I'm looking to start this business, but I don't know how to start a business. That's all you have to say, and I will send you a checklist of like, okay, this is a step-by-step process. Let me know when you do 1 through 3, and then I'll help guide you through 4 through 6. So we make it super easy for everyone. We just want to get everyone going, and hopefully it helps you guys out.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mia, for sharing your story, for investing in this community free of charge. I mean, I'm sure I know I took a lot of notes, and I know that everyone else had done the same. Yes, Jamie, yes, we love it. Thank you again for all of you guys for coming and joining with us. This will be recorded so we can post it on YouTube for you to replay if there's anything that got lost, and especially if you wanted to find a quote that Mia said earlier, you can replay that. I will stop the recording really